Let's start with the introduction, Adam. We are really interested in knowing what Loose Puppets does and what do you do, what's your story, and so that people can understand why you're really here on this session.
Uh, Loose Puppets is a band Vatsal and I founded, and initially it was a four-piece set, a four-piece act, but right now it's just Vatsal and me who are writing the music, who are taking it forward, and we're a progressive rock band, I would say, an alternative rock band, and that's all. I think the rest can be discovered through our music.
Right. For
Hi,
people as
Vatsal.
Hi, Vatsal. Thank you so much for coming. For people who have just joined, Adam and Vatsal are a part of a band called Loose Puppets, and they create alternative slash progressive rock music. So we'll start the session now. First of all, thank you so much for being here, Adam and Vatsal. We'll start with your introductions. We'll start with Vatsal now. Vatsal, if you can introduce yourself and tell us your why of creating music or just following your passion, and then we'll
Mhm.
get back, and then we'll get to then we'll get to Adam. But Vatsal, let's start from you.
Okay, so firstly, hi to the viewers. So I am based out of Delhi. I was born, brought up in Delhi, and I think I've been acquainted with music since I was very small, since I had a musical family, and I was exposed to a lot of rock music as well because I have an elder brother who used to bring all sorts of progressive music into the house. Even though he outgrew it, I was never able to outgrow it, and I got attached to it way too, solid, like way too intensely, and I've been following it since. There were some key incidents in school that happened that made me realize that I have this hidden passion and a hidden talent, and it happened in school. From there on, I met people who shared views like me about music, who helped me carry on. And as you can see, Adam is one of them who really pulled me into it all in. And here we are today doing this, doing something we both love. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about me.
Thank you, Vatsal. Adam, we come to you for the introduction. And what's your why of following your passion, creating your music, and just being persistent at it?
Is there a question for me or Vatsal?
Yes, for
For you,
Adam.
for you.
Okay, can you repeat the question? And it was
Of
really
course,
long.
we just wanted to know who you are as a person, and what is your why of creating music and just being persistent at what you do.
Okay. Just like Vatsal said, I'll follow the same structure. I am Adam. I was born and brought up in Srinagar, Kashmir, and that's where it took place. That's where the foundation was laid for my liking for music, and that's when I decided that I wanted to do this. I didn't know that I wanted to do this professionally or as a career, but it was back in those days when I was in my early teens when I was exposed to this kind of music. I had a friend, Jibrail, a very close friend, and I think Jibrail and a couple of other friends from my school. We were in Burnhall School back then, and that circle really liked listening to a specific kind of music, and thanks to that as well, it grew on me, and I've been listening to that kind of music since then. It acted like a gateway for me, and that's it. That's how it all started for me. And then, like Vatsal said, we've since college we've been making music together, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Thank you. We'll have a lot of conversations on this platform about when you started your band and, back in the early 20s, how was it for both of you? What were the kind of struggles you had? But right now, I'll pass it on to Ira now.
Okay,
She has a brilliant question for you.
sure.
so I really want to know that what is this all story behind the name Loose Puppets? I am very interested to know this. Manik told me that it's very interesting. You should ask.
No, I
But
think plus it's a very interesting name as well.
yeah, it is. It is.
Okay. So I think it's not a very planned thing that happened with us. So I think it was just when we had started performing. So it was just this one time that, we were performing at this we started performing at this open mic where the manager told us that, we want you coming in every Tuesday from now on. I mean, we like you and all. And like, fine. And not something we'd expected. So we started going there, and then after 2 gigs, he was like, "Guys, you know what? You don't have a name yet, and like we need to advertise you guys, and we need to show people who's coming to perform. So you need to have a name." And that was like one day before our next gig, and he's like, "We need that name." And we just quickly got on a group, all of us, and we started brainstorming names at that point, and we had a flurry of names coming there. So I think Loose Puppets was something. I think we were on that chat for like a couple hours, and I came up with this name and I pitched it to the guys, and I came up with this name, and I told people that I mean, I told Adam and our bassist that, I think we feel this kind of restraint on the materialistic things and, the mundanes of life. Like, they kind of trap you in this, what, in Hindu scripture is called Maya, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And what music does for us is kind of break apart from all those, worldly
Shackles.
elements that keep
Yeah.
us trapped. Yeah, yeah. It's literally that kind of feeling that makes us feel free from all of those things. So at that point, I was like, everybody was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for us. And I think Loose Puppets is really good. But to be fair, and like to be frank, at that point we thought we might change it in the future, but it stuck really well with us and people loved it. As you said, you guys like it too, so we kept it with us. Yeah.
It does, it does, it does. It sounds so good, and the story is so inspirational. I thought it must be something funny or something, just yes, but yeah.
No, yeah, we're
No,
pretty serious when it comes to
there
our
is an
stuff.
angle. There is an angle there, but yeah, not entirely funny.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. So, Adam, I have a question for you, and I think the whole world is right now divided into Messi fans and Ronaldo fans. So, Messi is someone
Okay.
who had natural talent, and Ronaldo is someone who has put in a lot of hard work, has done has been really persistent in whatever he has been doing. So my question is to Adam, because right now we are speaking about creativity and persistence. Adam, what do you think? Which side is the heavier one? Is it the persistence or is it the natural talent?
I think persistence beats talent any day. Because if you put talent in a box and nobody gets to see it, you don't get to hone it, you don't get to, uh, you know, give it different forms, you don't get it out there. It still is talent, but it doesn't get that acknowledgement. You may not be able to
Yeah.
refine it, but persistence helps you refine it. It helps you learn more about yourself, and it actually makes you a better person because you go through these really hard times, and in the end, persistence always triumphs everything else. And that's just what I think.
Right, right. Vatsal, what about you? What do you think?
No, I think I totally agree. And how I would define is I think that persistence is your like foundation. Like if you have talent, you have an advantage. But if you don't have persistence, there's no use of that advantage to you. And as you took the example of Messi and Ronaldo, I mean, yeah, Messi is, talented, but he is also, there's a lot of hard work we don't see him going through and putting in, which has, led him to this stage where he is so recognized. And Ronaldo and Messi, they both have that persistence factor in them, and that's why they're here. Maybe Messi had that talent, and I'm a Messi fan personally, so I'm going to be a little biased here. I like him better, so I don't want to say he's better than he's at the stage where he's better than Ronaldo. I mean, they both have their own achievements that can be put on the same pedestal. But yeah, you get my point there. So I think yeah, persistence is something that's a must-have for anyone pursuing anything.
Absolutely. Thank you. Before we go to Ira for the answer, I see it as a marathon, and I think what Adam had said, it gives you an advantage.
Right.
So if you're running a
Yeah.
marathon, if you have natural talent, you started
Mhm.
the starting point is different. But if you're being persistent at it, so if both the people are being persistent at it,
Yeah.
obviously the natural talent person would achieve the ending line first. But I still think any day, I think the persistence is heavier than the natural talent. What do you think, Kira?
I would say that yes, persistence is always there, should be there, because as both of them were saying that, it will help you for a long run. So it will help you to push your boundaries. It will help you to go beyond that you expect. So yes, I think persistence is very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Loose Puppets has chosen their sides in terms of Ronaldo and Messi. They have chosen their sides, and I just hope that no one starts fighting in our comment section that uh,
I can
we
already,
don't.
I know some of the fans, some of the people that I know are diehard fans of football. So,
Yeah,
like,
I'm just,
you guys are touching upon a controversial topic there, but
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Okay, so I want to ask that, when you're pursuing something which is so unconventional, so then a lot of pressure from social media also comes into the picture, because you can see people around you pursuing something or doing something that fit into that societal expectation and boxes. So how do you people tackle that part? Like, how do you tackle that part, that it's okay that whatever is happening, maybe we are on right path or something like that?
Wow.
Okay. So, my first advice would be follow the people who do stuff like you so that you don't come across things that are not your domain. But I mean, social media has a very, very deep algorithm of doing that. But okay, I mean, on a serious note, I think if you're doing something unconventional, first of all, don't think that you're at a disadvantage. I think you have something unique. You have a direction that no one has at the starting point of whatever they're doing. So if you're starting with something that's out of the definitions of society or what other people do, know that you have something special there, but don't stop and don't be. And at that point, you need to know that you have to be very broad-sighted, because if you have something that's unconventional, you need to find ways where people would relate to it. You need to put it in a way where people can see where you're coming from. So I think that's something very important, but you definitely have an advantage if you're doing something unconventional.
Hmm.
And you can always add aspects to them from the things that you see, the things that people are doing on social media, anything that's in the popular culture or something that's defined already. You can always take elements off of that to add it to your own artwork or your own creative piece. So these are some ways you can work around it. And at the end, just don't lose vision of what you're doing, because I think that's what makes it unique in the first place, right? So just make sure you don't lose that, but add all those things that you think that, people have defined ways of adding things to their art. So take the good points from them. Don't lose vision of your art and know that you have something special.
Great, nice. What
Great,
about you,
great,
Adam?
Vatsal.
What do you think?
Me?
Yeah.
Like Vatsal said, what we consume really matters. Like anything that you imbibe, anything that you absorb, you'll kind of reflect parts of it. So it's very important to consume. Be careful about what you're consuming. Be careful about what you're, you know,
Mm.
seeing every day. What kind of people you're following. What kind of idols you have. What kind of aspirations you're looking up to. The second most important thing is to not care too much about it. Be careful about your consumption, but don't really, don't let it define you. There's never
Yeah,
you're never going to. You should never aspire to be somebody else. I think that's the best
yeah,
way to build something. Take cues from other
true.
people. Pick up things that you like. Learn how they've done something, but do it the way you would. And that's all I'd like to say.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I agree to this. And so, Adam, I have a follow-up question to you. So, like, we see a lot of people around on social media, and
Mhm.
as you said, not being careful about what you consume because it's a reflection, because it reflects in your thoughts, and like, you sort of develop a bias. But when it comes
Mhm.
from yourself, for example, the thoughts of self-doubt, the thoughts of not being enough, how do you how do you realign yourself during those times? Because I'm sure throughout your musical journey, throughout your band journey, you must have had come across a lot of thoughts like these when you wanted to give up, or when you wanted to when you were questioning yourself that whatever I am doing, am I going on the right path? So how do you when you go off track, how do you realign yourself?
Is this a question for me or for Vatsal?
Yes, it's for Radha.
Right. So when you talk about our musical journey, I don't think we've come that far in our journey. We've spent a lot of time over it, but the journey itself is like a very long way for us to go still. Uh, I'm sorry, what was the what was the question? I forgot.
So when you get thoughts of self doubt, how do you realign
Right.
yourself?
Self doubt. Everybody has self doubt. Uh, I've come to realize that even the most successful people have self doubt. There is no amount of validation that can satisfy you for the rest of your life. And I think that's something you should make peace with, accept, and continue improving what you're doing. Like chasing perfection, if that's what you're doing to satisfy yourself, is not going to help, because that's like a facade. Perfection doesn't exist. The only thing that can be done is you can iteratively keep on improving things with music, with anything in life, with the relationships, with your work, with your job. You have to keep at it. That's all I would say.
Right. Thank you, Adam. Vatsal, what about you? How do you realign yourself when you get these? Because I'm sure a lot of people in, especially
Hmm.
for Gen Z, they get a lot of self-doubt thoughts and a lot
Hmm.
of pressure and seeking the validation. So, what do you think? How do you realign yourself?
Like Adam said, no amount of validation is ever going to be enough. So I think there's some key things that you need to be sure about when you're starting your journey as an artist or on a creative journey. So I think one thing that you should be sure about is that you're not doing it for a specific end result, right? I think that's something that people sometimes get into doing things because they imagine that, the end result is really good or it's going to feel that way when we reach there. And if you take that path, I think there's going to be a lot of frustration for you and it's going to rob you of a lot of things by the end of it. So the thing is, you should do something when you enjoy the process of it. I think that's the most reliable way of going about anything. If you enjoy the process of doing something, it's going to be easier to fight those battles because you're gonna encounter self-doubt in both of those journeys. So that's one thing that you should be sure about. I think the second thing I'd say is keep the artist inside you alive because there's gonna be times where about you're gonna feel lost for the reasons with which you started with, and to have that, you can't ignore that part of yourself for long. So make sure that even if you're lost in things in your life, you're doing other things, you're caught up with a lot of stuff. Just make sure you reconnect with that part. You keep reconnecting with it, and to make sure you can probably have a support system for that. I think that's very important. And for me, it's in the form of a person who's right here with us, and it's Adam, because I think, and it goes both ways for us. And this is something we recently experienced, where I was very, very down about it. I was almost unsure if we should be doing this, if we can do this. And he pulled me out of it, and he gave me a solution that we should do. We should probably meet up together. He basically helped me stay, reconnect to that part of myself again. Because he knew we started this journey together, he knew that part of me and he was able to drag me towards it. So that really was wonders for me. And yeah, I think that would basically be the 2 points I think anyone should be sure of to battle self-doubt because you are going to encounter it.
Wonderful. So,
Yeah, yeah,
you were talking about the support system. So I really want to know
yeah.
from Adam as well as from Manik, because we we have seen
Right.
you people, and I've seen Manik as well, that you have chosen something which is very different, unique, or maybe not traditional, I would say. So how important was it for you people to have that support? You know, to have that always that push, that you can do it, or maybe anything. So how important was it for you? and maybe still?
Uh, Support's very important. I mean, what do I say? I'm not somebody who derives a lot of strength from within.
Mm.
And yeah, mm, like Vatsal said, we've been there for each other. And this thing especially is different because when you take a creative endeavor with somebody, uh, it's not like it's not like a regular job that you're doing. It's not like you're working with a colleague or you're working with somebody else, like a collaboration of that sort. When you're making music and when you're doing something creative, sometimes it's really personal, and be able to communicate that and create that with someone, right? And then that's a very personal thing. So you need that kind of trust, you need that kind of faith, you need that kind of understanding in the other person. uh,
Mm.
as a band, we're one single old, right? That's not much in the industry, but we've written a lot of songs together, and we've understood we've understood that music on so many layers that we know that we can make those songs, that we can write those songs. But uh, I'll give you an example of the pandemic, right? I think this was the biggest disruption the world has seen. COVID really like screwed everything up. Even like Vatsal said, he had thoughts of how will we do this, how will we go ahead, and
Yeah.
Mm.
I think you find your own support system. There's no standard support system. You
Mm.
find your own
Yeah.
support system, whatever
True.
works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just important to have it with you. I think anyone, it could be your family, it could be your friends, just someone you had all along with you, and you can go back to them, you know.
Mm.
It can be an object. It could be anything. Doesn't have to be a
Yeah,
person. It really depends on who you are.
True. True. What about you,
true.
Manik?
I think you can have multiple support systems for multiple things. And this is what I have realized personally. This is what I've experienced. I could never find one single support system for every thing that I did, but I had different support system. For example, let's say at my work, I had a different support system. In my family, I had someone else. In my let's say if I have various social circles, I had various people in various circles that acted
Hmm.
as my support system. But I personally could never find one single person for as a whole support system who could support me through all the spheres of my life. But
Yeah.
yes, that and I've done fairly well with this. Like I never had this thing. Okay, I need one single support system for everything. So I think it's worked fine for me. And yes, that's my take on this. My next question is to Vatsal. So, Vatsal, when
Yeah.
you just want to understand you're creating music, this is something,
Hmm.
this is highly creative, right? Because you're starting from
Yeah.
scratch. So, what are the things that you do on a daily basis, that boost your creativity, or maybe not on the daily basis, but at a fixed interval or something that helps you to get those original thoughts of writing or creating music?
Okay. So I don't have a process for it, but one thing that I do is maintain this kind of a journal on my phone. So I'm a person who's really observant, and I'm not very outspoken, and I internalize a lot of thoughts. I'm almost constantly talking to myself, if I had to explain to you. So there are times where, it like randomly a profound thought would probably pop up in my head. And I've learned to write those down. It took me a long time where, I wasn't maintaining a journal and those thoughts would go away, and then I would just be like torturing myself over it, trying to remember what it is. So I think as an artist, uh, what really helps me is having an eye for aesthetic. So if I'm consuming any kind of content in my day, I would try to recognize the elements that draw me towards it, to be specific. And I have this kind of ability where I can capture those elements in the form of emotions and moods, and then translate them into music, basically. and I would write those points down in my journal. If it's a line, if it's a thought, I would write it down. If I am able to transform it into a lyric or a song title. So, in perspective of music, because that's what I know how to do well. So that's how I go about it in my day to, have my creativity, keep it alive, and be connected to it as well.
Absolutely. I think we at Second Act encourages this thing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Journaling
yeah,
is an amazing, is a very powerful tool to connect with yourself.
yeah.
And now I'll come to Adam. So Adam, what do you do that sort of boost your creativity every day, or what's your process that you get original thoughts? Because I think for any kind of any kind of creative process, you need original thoughts to come in. So what do you do that boost it for you?
As of now, nothing interesting. I mean, one really big downside of having a full-time job and balancing this is that you don't get a lot of headspace to really delve into ideas that you have. But every time I'm driving, every time I'm alone for a bit, I I just I start thinking, and that's all. I don't really have a process, like a sad process for it. So there's no concrete process for it. It's just anything can be an inspiration. It just comes across you. It happens. Mostly, a lot of it comes to me when I'm driving because I'm alone. I can listen to music, and it's that really small, confined space. It just does something for me. A lot of the times, the music that we write, I listen to our songs while I'm driving and think of what else can we do with it. How else can we improve it? What can I play over it? So a lot of that comes while I'm driving.
Mm.
Thank you. Over to you, Ira.
So I think this would be our last question.
Hmm.
I want to know from three of you that, what would be what would be a piece of advice that you want to give to the people who are, struggling to pursue and be persistent in that, and who have started but not finding it easy. What would be your advice? I think I would start with Manik. What do you think?
Uh, I think I'd suggest to not seek external validation, and it's easier said than done. But I think if you can, so I follow a philosophy, and I think I've spoken about this a lot of times. Control the things that you can control. These are your values, your emotions, your routine, your responses, and the things that you cannot control. There's no point in sulking over it. And this is what I personally do as well. Just controlling the things that you can control, right? Obviously, you cannot control what your peers do. You cannot control how do they respond to what you do. But if you have a vision, if you have a proper vision of, okay, this is where I want to reach, or this is this is a platform I want to create to cater to these number of people. For example, I want to impact 1 million people through mindfulness and well-being via Second Act. So that's a if I have that vision, no matter what I do, and every choice that I will make will contribute towards that. Right. So I'd say just don't lose the vision of your goal. Control the things that you can, and the things that you cannot control, there's no point in getting stressed over that. So yeah, that's my advice for people who are finding it right now difficult to be persistent, difficult to stay at it at what they do. And yes, that's from my side.
What about you, Vatsal?
Um, I think one advice that I would give and which I found useful for myself was don't overthink about it because I think a lot of times what happens with art, what happened with me as an artist before we started creating was the thought that how are we going to create?
Hmm.
Because the creation, I think, is a very unique process which people don't encounter in their lives until they've reached a, where they're on their own basically. And to create something for the public, for people out there, it's a scary thought. It was a scary thought for me. So my advice would be that you need to have a reliable creative process And there is no defined way or a definition of any creative process. If you ask any artist, they're gonna have a separate thing for themselves that works out for them. So I think discovering that is really important, and where anyone can start is just diving into it. And anything that comes to you, don't overthink it and get down to doing it. Be a doer about it, because mapping it out is can be very taxing for anyone, because it's an emotional process, and it's very difficult to objectify it. So to think about it objectively is very difficult. So that would be my first advice. And the second thing would be, if you're working with any art piece of yours, I mean, an individual art piece, be very clear about the vision of it. Because as long as you're clear about the vision, when you're delivering it, there's going to be different phases involved to any art piece. And so that you make lesser mistakes, because you're going to be involved with different parties that are probably going to influence you, that could influence your product, because you'll need to market it. You need to, there are a lot of domains today, right? You're putting it on a digital platform, you're reaching out people, you're creating a lot of content for your specific art piece. So so that it doesn't get diluted, and it doesn't contaminate your actual art piece. I think have a clear vision of it and refine it as you go through the process. Refine it as much as you can, and that would start with your creative process. So yeah, I think that would be the two things I would like to give to people.
Beautiful. Adam, what do you think?
Right, Ira, can you please repeat the question? I lose out on a few
Okay.
things.
No
Time.
problem. So, I was asking that what piece of advice would you give to people who are struggling to, being persistent for whatever they're pursuing right now? So, even if they
Okay.
have started or not, but being persistent is very important and sometimes become very difficult process.
Okay. So the funniest thing here is, I mean, I think it's very ironic for me that I'm talking about, like, I can give advice to people about persistence when I am not somebody who has believed himself to be a persistent person. But if I had to give any sort of gyan or advice to anybody, it would be that, like Vatsal said, have a vision. Uh, he was talking about a song. I'm talking about your life, your goals. Have a vision, but you can't achieve that in one day, one night, or 1 year. Uh, Realize that it takes time. Good music takes time, and this is the exact line that I heard from one of the band members of Parvas. Right, back then when I used to meet them, I used to look up to them because they used to make really good music, and back then I didn't know how to. And one of the guys said that good music takes time, and I did realize that it does take time. Even if you can be at it 24/7, it will take time. So having patience and having shorter milestones that lead to your eventual goal, I think that's the easiest advice I would give anybody. And if you truly follow that, that should help.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Ira, what about you? I think we want to know your advice as well.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think so. I just take each day and I try to, uh, I don't know. It's just I just keep myself pushing. Uh, in terms of okay, let's go with it. So whenever I try, whenever I start doing something, I try to enjoy it rather than doing it for the sake
Yeah.
of doing it. I try to enjoy it. So if I'm doing something at second act, even if I'm making Excel sheets or maybe I'm on ground, so interacting with the pink ladies and everyone, so I try to enjoy those conversations. I try to push myself ki, it's a process, it's a good process. I'm learning from them.
Yeah.
They have so much to tell, they have so many experiences to share, which is so good. I could never get to that point. I can never have those experiences. And I think these are the things, like, take each day and love it. Whatever you're doing it, just love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's really important. And yes, that being said, we end our session today. Voices of Youth is a platform where we address the opinions of the youth and get people and have conversations that can help youth to tackle their thoughts of self-doubt, to tackle their thoughts of being lazy or not being persistent at things, or just following their passion, and most importantly following their second act. So thank you so much, Adam and Vatsal from Loose Puppets. We would love to have you back someday on a session like this, and thank you so much
for
for your
sure.
time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manik.